And Minister, I do appreciate the fact that you've come in this evening to answer this question. I appreciate that because I know that you have a particularly busy schedule today, and of course you're getting ready for tomorrow as well, so I'm conscious of that. Minister, about 3 weeks ago, a 13-year-old girl waited for an ambulance for 50 minutes, 50 minutes, after she took seriously ill at her home in West Roscommon. The girl suffered a serious neurological attack, and only for the help of a neighbour, a former nurse, her family are convinced that this girl would have died. As the emergency occurred, her father rang 999 and was told the ambulance could not arrive for about 50 minutes. The ambulance was coming from Sligo, as this was the nearest place an ambulance could be found. At this stage, the man's daughter was seriously ill. His daughter was struggling to breathe, and he asked for an emergency response. At that stage, there's no doubt about it, an air ambulance should have been called in. But no air ambulance arrived. What a trauma and what a stressful situation for any family. Now, I must say, when the ambulance arrived, the staff were excellent. And in a short space of time, they stabilised the girl and her breathing and made her comfortable. When the A&E closed in Roscommon, we were guaranteed, Minister, that there would be an increased ambulance service for the county. That hasn't happened. And the people of West Roscommon have been left without a service. And while I do acknowledge the air ambulance from time to time does a very good job and gets there very quickly, this, as I'm sure you will agree, is a very serious situation and is one that I'm sure you would be concerned about. There was an ambulance base opened in Loughlin, which is close to where this family lives, in West Roscommon. And that opened in January of 2016. But there is no permanent ambulance staff there. An ambulance comes and parks at the building from Roscommon University Hospital when it's available. Minister, I'm asking you today to seriously look at the putting in place of a permanent ambulance team in Loughlin to serve that vast countryside of West Roscommon. It is something that is desperately needed, and I know you've got that message from other people as well. And I hope that you will be able to look at this and bring some solace to the people of that area so that they don't live in fear of not being able to get an ambulance as quickly as they can when it's urgently needed.
Well, I want to thank Deputy Murphy for raising this very important, indeed sensitive matter, and I want to thank him for also telling me of the difficulty that a particular constituent of him experienced. And it is important in bringing those issues to the floor of this House, because we are talking about real people when we talk about statistics and numbers and resources and decisions. And I thank him for that, and I'll certainly be asking the HSE and the National Ambulance Service about the matter that he has brought to my attention. As Deputy Murphy knows, within Roscommon, the National Ambulance Service, the NAS, operates from a number of bases. However, as the House will also be aware, the NAS dynamically deploys resources to respond to incidences as they arrive. This is achieved in the Roscommon area by dispatching resources from adjacent ambulance stations in neighbouring counties. Resources from ambulance stations including Carrick-on-Shannon, Tuam, Longford and Athlone can and are deployed to incidences in Roscommon as required, in addition to obviously the ambulance bases within Roscommon. Deputy Murphy will know that in order to further develop services in Roscommon, indeed as he outlined himself, the NAS acquired the former Garda station at Loughlin, refurbished it and opened it as a dispatch point in 2016, but I take the point that he makes. The ambulance service in West Roscommon has been reviewed a number of times in terms of available resources and demand for services. Since 2011, extra staff have been assigned to Roscommon to provide an additional 24/7 emergency ambulance and a 24/7 rapid response vehicle. In addition, an intermediate care vehicle has been deployed to Roscommon to undertake inter-hospital and inter-facility transfers. Of course, Roscommon, as Deputy Murphy has alluded to, is well served by the Emergency Aeromedical Service, which operates from Costume Barracks Athlone. I am eager to see if we can do more in the aeromedical space, because that would enable the Emergency Aeromedical Service in Athlone to do even more in your part of the country also. That service was established to provide a more timely response to persons living in rural areas and is available 7 days a week in daylight hours. The service is specifically targeted at the west of Ireland, with the highest demand for services coming from counties Roscommon, Galway and Mayo. The capacity review, which was the first review I published of the ambulance service when I became Minister, examined overall ambulance resource levels and distribution against demand and activity. Future investment in ambulance services, I can assure the Deputy, will be guided by that capacity review. Over recent years, year-on-year additional investment has been directed towards the National Ambulance Service, but I accept we have more to do. This year, an additional sum of €10.7 million has been made available, which includes €2.8 million to fund new developments in the ambulance service. New developments include the development of alternative pathways to care, with the Here and Treat clinical hub expected to go live soon in the National Emergency Operations Centre. This will divert some lower acuity patients to alternative care pathways and will free up some emergency capacity. In time, it's hoped that such initiatives will help to improve response times around the country, including in the West Roscommon area. I should also mention that the capacity review did identify particular difficulties serving rural areas such as County Roscommon. Outside the Greater Dublin area, the population of this country is widely dispersed, with a relatively large population living in our rural areas. Because of this population distribution, Ireland has a far higher percentage of activity in rural areas than other ambulance services, and that's something we have to grapple with. When we compare ourselves to other jurisdictions, our population is dispersed in a very different way, and that's a good thing and it's a welcome thing. But it does mean there's extra challenges in making sure that we can absolutely get ambulances to every part of this country as quickly as we'd all like, and we need to take on those challenges head on and deal with that, and I would like to do that. The review indicated that one of the practical ways to improve first response times, as well as additional investment in the ambulance service, is through our community first responder service schemes, and I'm very pleased that the NAS is now working very closely with the local CFR groups across the country in order to develop and enhance services. So I want to assure Deputy Murphy and the House that the National Ambulance Service is focused on improving the ambulance service in West Roscommon, and throughout the country. I will bring directly to the National Ambulance Service the concerns and the points highlighted by Deputy Murphy on the floor of Dáil Éireann, and I will ask that the NAS would directly revert to Deputy Murphy on the specific issues he's raised.
Thank you. Deputy Murphy.
Brief response to that, Deputy Cathaoirleach. Minister, I do, and it's nice to hear you say, like, you know, you're worried about people rather than numbers. That's so important, and that's a very important issue. And you know, I acknowledge what you say. Sometimes an ambulance can be in an area and can get there very quickly. But this happened after a family came from church on a Sunday, which should be a pretty quiet day, and there was no ambulance available in Roscommon to come there. And obviously, to get the ambulance from Sligo was going to take 50 minutes. So there was a shortage of ambulances in the area. Now, we acknowledge the difficulty, we acknowledge the problem, and yes, we have a sprawling countryside. But as you are well aware as a member of this Dáil, our responsibility has to be to our people, and to do our best for our people and serve our people. And that's why I'm pressing this case so hard. I'm thankful that you give me the answer you have given, and hopefully we can see some progress in relation to putting that service there. I think it would be very, very welcome. And if you do put it there, Minister, I'll be the first to stand up publicly and give you credit for doing it. Thank you.
Responsibility to all of the people right across this country, regardless of where they live. And in fact, in many ways, we have a particular responsibility to people who live in rural and regional communities in making sure we put the services in place. And that's why we are increasing the budget for the National Ambulance Service year on year, increasing it by over €10 million this year, which will give us almost €3 million, €2.8 million additional, which will enable us to invest in more ambulances, more paramedics. It's very important, and I know the Deputy would agree, that the National Ambulance Service follow an evidence base and target those resources at the areas most particularly in need. And I hear very clearly the case that Deputy Murphy and the case that all Oireachtas members for Roscommon make in relation to the need for more resources for your ambulance service. I'll pass them directly on to the National Ambulance Service, and indeed I'll ask the National Ambulance Service to contact Deputy Murphy directly on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.